Hi everybody and welcome to a new match in the Deathball League. And this is the first match in round 2. And today the Red City Rebels will host Zarasso's Shadows in the brand new Red City Stadium. Red City Rebels is a skill team with the fast as lightning trait. They line up with a shooter, a dodger, and 3 linemen. And Varzarr, the shooter team captain, has leveled up. He injured and scored several goals in the last match. He now has the ability Motivator, so he can use one of his own actions to command one of his teammates. Zarasso's Shadows is an Undead Brawl team with the regeneration trait, so they are always ready after knockout and they can potentially avoid injuries, but they can also only roll 2 activation dice. They line up with a shooter, a brawler, and 3 zombie linemen. And they haven't leveled up or bought any players. So we are ready for the roll-off. Varzarr versus Conrad, and the Red City Rebels will have the first activation. The teams will now line up. And here we have both teams ready. Let's go for turn number 1. The Red City Rebels will activate first. And one good activation. This lineman will immediately move towards the ball. And remember the fast as lightning trait. They can move 5 squares, but they have to add 1 to the attack hit chart. And now the team captain, Varzarr. He will go straight for the ball and attempt to pick it up. He will only need a 2 because he has a high skill value, and he moves slightly back. And the next lineman here, 2 good actions. They are really off to a good start. So he can move all the way around his team captain and try to protect him. And then we have the dodger here, the dangerous player, able to avoid enemy control zones. But he fails 2 activations out of 3, so he will lose the turn. It's now the Undead. Zarasso's Shadows had a frustrating first match. They played a pretty good defense, but they had troubles all over the rest of the pitch. And then Conrad, the team captain Wraith, did not play up to his very best. Oh, and let's see Armand, the mummy brawler here. He will fail 2 activations. It's back to the Red City Rebels. They have the ball and they are fast. And the dodger here, Sneak, will have 1 good action. So he will, of course, sprint towards the end zone. Next up, this lineman. And he also has a good action. What will he do? He will continue the movement. And now Varzarr. What can he do with the ball? Well, he can move. And he will also move to the right side of the pitch. So it's the Undead now. And Conrad is about to move. But yet again, he fails an activation and loses the turn. This is certainly one of his problems. He is not very reliable. The Red City Rebels will activate once, luckily for the Undead only once, otherwise he would have taken the ball all the way to the end zone. Now the Undead have a chance to stop him, and finally Conrad moves into action. So he moves and then he moves again into the end zone to block the way completely for the ball carrier. So Armand now. He is the strongest player on the pitch by far, but now he can only move. He will not be able to attack. Next up, this zombie lineman, also 1 activation, and he can attack. And with a 4, he will hit, and he will only push the tiny rat man back. Next zombie, they activate a lot, but not many activations. And finally this zombie, also 1 good action. He will attack the lineman and he also hits, but can he do some real damage? No. He will push the rat man around, and that will be the end of the Undead turn. And then what now? They are in a close... Wow, the rat man lose the turn immediately. Back to the Undead. Turn 8. And our Mon will, of course, try to move. Oh my god. The undead again loses the turn. The turn shifts a lot at the moment. And 2 good activations for Varzarr, but his path to the end zone is blocked. He will need a 4 to take down Conrad, and he moves Conrad out of the way. Yes, but he will have to move through his tackle zone or his control zone to get into the end zone. So this last movement will allow Conrad a free attack. He will need a 4 to hit, and he hits the last line of defense. And he also only pushes the red man back, but no matter what, he will lose the ball, and the ball will bounce. So let's see where the ball will go. And it's 2 squares in direction 2. So into the middle of the pitch, 2 squares from this square. So it will stay just behind the mummy and also in a place where Conrad potentially can pick it up. But we also have the dodger. What can he do? He can activate at least twice. Can he dodge out of any of the control zones? He takes 1 step. He will need a 3 to dodge, and he dodges. Now he takes a step towards the ball. He is again successful, and now he will have to pick it up. He will need a 3, and he fails the final action to pick up the ball. So the ball will bounce again, this time in direction 7. It's towards the sideline and only 1 square. But he can continue his movement if he wants to, but he will still have to dodge. And this time he does not dodge anywhere, so the mummy will hit him, and he will hit. And that could be very dangerous for the tiny dodger. But again, he will only be pushed. Even though they have very light armor, he will be pushed into the end zone. And they are still not finished. Well, they are now, because he fails his activations, all of them. It's now turn 10. The undead are under pressure with the ball very close to their control zone, and our Mon, has he even done something yet? He fails twice, and the red men will again have the turn. Varzarr will take action now, 2 actions. He has the ball in a square right next to him, so he will try to move Conrad around, I guess. No, he tries to move from 1 square in Conrad's control zone to the other, but Conrad cannot hit him. Instead, he will attempt to pick up the ball. He will only need a 2, so he barely gets a grip on the ball, and he will be able to continue his movement now. But instead, he will use his second action and attempt to shoot the ball to the dodger. He will have to shoot through 2 control zones, and that's a -2 modifier, but he has a skill of 3, so he will need a 5 to make a successful shot. Ooh, so close. He will fire the ball against Schnick, but the ball will bounce. He will not be able to catch it. So once again, the ball will bounce, and since it's a shot, it will bounce in direction 4, but 1 square more than it usually would there. And that is where the ball will end up. But it's still the Rat City Rebels' turn. So could one of the other maybe get the ball? And this lineman will certainly have the chance. He will move towards the ball. He will attempt to pick it up with a 3. And once again, the ball is on Rat Men hands. And finally, this lineman will attempt a move action. He will let the turn go back to Zarasso's shadows, but he can move once. And then the undead will have a chance to do something about this mess. And this zombie will fail 2 activation dice. It's the Ratman again. And now this could really, really be dangerous. And this Ratman has 1 good action. He will attempt to remove this zombie. And let's see, it's... no, it's not enough. So the Ratman with the ball. And he will have actions. He could try to dodge out of the control zone, but instead he will attack the zombie. It's not enough to remove him, so he will try the dodge move, and that will give the zombie a free attack, and he will hit. So no matter what happens, and he will slam him down finally. A good hit, and the ball will once again be loose. And where will it go? 3 squares in direction 2. It's all the way very close to the end zone, and it's still the Ratman's turn. Now can Sneak the Dodger activate? He can. He has 2 good actions, so all he will need is to pick up the ball. He will need a 3 to be successful. And if that happens, and it does, he will take the ball to the end zone and score. It's a 1 for the Rat City Rebels, 0 for Zarasso's Shadows. And the game is back to a quick restart. We have a stunned Ratman inside the Undead home zone, but Conrad will activate first. He will have 2 good actions. He will use 1 to move towards and pick up the ball, and then he will use his second action to move to the left side of the pitch. He will run towards the Ratmen and, of course, in the end, towards the end zone. But he will need some protection, so this zombie lineman will aid him, and Armand, and 1 good action. He is a mummy after all. And also 1 action from this lineman. They will rush towards the Ratmen. They really mean business now. And the turn will pass to the Rat City Rebels. And this lineman will immediately activate once. So he can move 5 squares, and he will try to block the way for Conrad the Wraith with the ball. And Varzarr. No. The lineman here is up next. He will have 2 good actions, and he can reach Conrad in his first movement action and attempt to hit him. So he will need a 3 to hit Conrad, and he rolls a 6. He will swing his fist, and he will take Conrad down, and he will lose the ball. And the ball will end up 1 square in direction 8, just behind Conrad. So what will they do now? The ball is once again loose on the ground. And this Ratman is of no use, but Varzarr, he is usually very effective. And also this time, a couple of good actions. So he will move behind his own defensive line, and he will reach the ball, and with a 2 once again, he barely picks up the ball, and he continues his movement towards Zarasso's Shadows home and end zone. Once again, Zarasso's Shadows are on their heels trying to stop the fast-running effective Ratmen. And they have zombies to do the job. So this zombie will be able to reach and also attack, but not enough to do some damage to Varzarr. He is still in control of the ball. Conrad will try to get back into the game. He's on his feet again. He has recovered, and Armand has 1 good action. He will really have to do something with his brawling skills. And this zombie seems to be a lot more reliable. He has 2 actions, so he cannot really reach the ball carrier, but he can reach the dodger, and he can attempt to hit him. And once again, no. Well, so it's back to the Rat City Rebels with the ball. And this Ratman will once again try to recover. So this time he's successful. 1 good action, he's on his feet. And Varzarr, what can he do? The Ratman shooter will have 2 actions, but he is more or less surrounded. He will once again try to shoot the ball, And this one will be even trickier. He will need a 6 to be on target. And once again, it's not really possible. But he will fire the ball towards the lineman here, but it will bounce D3 plus 1 square. So all the way back, almost to the middle of the pitch. But it's still the Ratman's turn, and now Varzarr can use his motivator ability. So even though this lineman has activated, he can take an action because Varzarr commands it. And he moves back, and he takes the ball, and he has a few more squares in him, so he's off towards the end zone. And then we'll have some action on the other end of the pitch. And this Ratman will try to hit Conrad. He fails in his first attempt, but in his next attempt, he gets the Wraith and he puts him down, and he even has a move action left. It's not looking good for the Undead now. And also 2 actions for this lineman. He will hit the zombie, and he will hit. They really play with their muscles. And oh my god, it's a roll of 11. The Ratman lineman will knock out the zombie right where he stands. He is off the pitch, knocked out. So the Undead team is also now outnumbered. A zombie here, he can take 2 actions, and he will hit Varzarr. He will do some payback to him, and with a roll of 7 plus 1 because of the light armor, he is stunned. And he will also attack the next lineman, and this is really, really bad. A roll of 11 plus 1, it's 12. It's a fatal hit, and the Ratman is injured, and with a roll of 4 on the injury chart, he will miss not only this, but also the next game. The zombie lineman Rotbot really hit this time. For the first time in this match, the Undead showed how they can play and how hard they can hit. Conrad has recovered. He's back on his feet. Is this the zombies' way back into this game? The power of the Undead? Is it now? And once again, he hits the Ratman. He goes down. He's not injured, but he is stunned. And Armand loses the turn. But finally some decent action from Zarasso's Shadows. But it is back to the Red City Rebels. Varzarr will attempt to recover. And he only rolls 1 die, but it's not enough. So now the lineman with the ball, he will have 2 good actions. He is within reach of the end zone. What will he do? He will attack the zombie with a 4. He attacks him and he pushes the zombie away, and that means with a movement of 5 squares, he will be able to reach the end zone, and it's 2 for the Red City Rebels with another great and fast goal by Varzarr, the lineman here. 2-0, but the Red City Rebels have an injured player, and the knocked out zombie is, of course, ready because of the regeneration trait, so the Undead will line up with 5 players, but no matter, they still lose the turn, their very first turn. And the Red City Rebels, the 4 remaining players, what can they do? The Dodger, he goes for the ball. Can 4 Ratman players yet again penetrate the Undead defense? Now Varzarr, he activates twice. He was stunned and he didn't make it back to the start line, and he will use his motivator ability and command the Dodger to shoot the ball to himself. It's a shot of slightly more than 4 inches, so it's a -1 plus 2 of his skill, so that will take a roll of 5, and he will not shoot the ball. He will lose the ball where he stands. Very clumsy. And the ball will bounce. And it will bounce 3 squares up across the center of the pitch to there. Now what? This lineman will attempt 2 activations and he will make them both, so he can move to the ball. He will need a 3 to pick it up, and he is good, so he can continue his movement. Where will he go? He will run towards the sideline. He will run around, so to speak, the undead defense, straight for the end zone. And then the ratman will fail. So now again the zombie defensive line have to look on rat players behind them, but they are not able to do anything. They will fail their activation. So all this lineman needs is 1 good activation, and that's exactly what he gets. He will score. It's now a 3-goal game. This is turning into an embarrassment for Zarasso's Shadows. The ratmen go and score exactly as they please. It's now turn 24, and Zarasso's Shadows' hope of winning or even tying this game is far gone now. All they can do is try to do some damage or whatever. And the mummy will sprint towards the ratmen. They do not really seem to know or have any kind of working game plan. The way they play and the amount of points they have at this very moment, I will predict that they will be in real danger of relegation from the Deathball League. And I know there will be several well-organized and exciting new teams ready to step into the very first tier of everything Deathball. But we'll have to see. I won't rule Zarasso's Shadows out before it's all over, but it looks really, really disturbing at the moment, because once again, the ball is on the Rat City Rebels' hands. And this rat player moves out again to the left side of the pitch, the outer zone. Somehow the undead managed to lose the ball, and they now have a new turn. And this zombie will activate once, and all he can do is to try to block the way, but they seem to run around and even through the undead at the moment. Conrad will also join the action, and Armon, he will hit. Could he for once make a... No, he cannot. And they have no reserve players at the moment. Maybe after this game they will have enough game points to spend something on their roster, because they have real problems at the moment. Coach Zarasso must have gray hair, and the rebels lose their activation here. Conrad will activate, and he will have 1 good action. And he will attempt a tackle now. He will try to tackle the ball out of the hands of the Ratman, and he is good. A successful tackle. He will take the ball into his own possession. And the zombie now, he will also have 1 good action, so he can hit the Ratman. So first, the Ratman will lose the ball, but he will not be hit by the zombie. And the brawler, for once, has a hit, and he will hit this time. He will do something to the Ratman, and with a roll of 9 + 1, it's 10. He will knock out the Ratman. Only 3 rat players left on the pitch now. How much do they need to score? The undead, they really have thinned out the Rat City Rebels now. It's turn 29, and the Ratman is in real danger from being completely wiped out now. And they also lose their activation with 3 failed attempts. It's round 30. Back to the undead, the zombie first. Oh, he will also fail everything. The Ratman will have another chance. 2 good actions. So he will move once, and then he will attack Conrad, and he will hit the Wraith. And he will push Conrad back. But he will lose the ball anyway. And the ball will bounce only one square, and it will bounce directly into the square of the Ratman. He will attempt to pick it up, but no, he's so surprised that he will lose it again. And the ball will continue 2 squares in direction 4. And now this Ratman, the Dodger, can activate. And he will lose the activation. So back to Zarasso's shadows. And again back to the Ratman. A very clumsy game at the moment. One good action, but he will again lose the activation. But, oh, and he will also drop the ball. It seems like everybody is a bit confused at the moment. Nobody really knows what's going on or what they are doing. The ball is all over the pitch. The Ratman only has 3 players left, and the Undead, well, there is no sign of any collective game plan or anything. So they more or less just hit where they stand. And this Ratman will attempt to move out of the control zone. The zombie will have a free hit, but he will miss. So he will run around the brawler. And it's back to Zarasso's shadows. And the zombie will have one good action. He will move and he will try to take the ball. And he is good. So now a zombie has the ball. And he has crossed the middle of the pitch. And that must be the closest Zarasso's shadows have been to a goal. And the turn shifts all the time at the moment. And Ratman here will try to stop the zombie, but it's the Undead again. And Armon has one good action. The zombie now with the ball. 2 good actions. Maybe there's a zombie here who really knows what he wants. He will try to attack the Ratman first, and he will hit him, and he will stun him, so that will clear the path. The Ratman cannot have any control zone when he is stunned. So the zombie lineman, Rotbot, who performed the fatal hit earlier in this match, is now running towards the end zone with the ball. So the rest of the Undead will try to do some damage. And the Dodger will be slammed to the ground. He will barely avoid a knockout. He is stunned. And Conrad, he will fail at least once, but he will also have one good action, so he will run. He seems to be eager to participate in maybe an upcoming Undead goal. It's the Ratman now. This Ratman will recover. And now, let's see if Rotvot can activate twice. No, only once. So that will take him to the doorstep of the Rat City Rebel end zone. But they are not there yet. And one good action and one attempt to attack a Ratman. And this zombie, he will have one action. And he will also try to attack and further stun this Ratman. And what will this zombie do? He will also move. No, he will attack the Dodger. He's already stunned, and with a roll of 10, he is now also knocked out. So that leaves 2 Ratmen on the pitch, 2 knocked out and 1 injured. The Rebels will have one final turn. It's turn 39. What can the 2 remaining Ratmen do? Can they prevent a goal? Oh, certainly not. They lose the turn, and it's now turn 40, the last turn of the game, and it all comes down to Rotbot. Can he activate successfully? He can. With a roll of 5 on 1 die, he will move into the end zone, and he will finally make a great action and score. Rotbot, he has now scored once and also injured a Ratman player. So that will be the end of this match. And player number 2 will be player of the game. It's Schnick the Dodger. And the Rat City Rebels will, well-deserved, earn 7 game points from this win. But they also have an injured player, and he will not be ready for the next match. And God knows why, but Conrad will be player of the game for Zarasso's Shadows, and they will earn 3 game points for this rather embarrassing loss. And that will leave them at the bottom of the Deathball League table, and the Rat City Rebels will take the lead. But of course they also have 1 game more than the other teams. So thanks a lot for watching this Deathball match. I hope you'll join me for future matches.